Saturday mornings were sacred, quiet, predictable. I always started the same way. Lawn watered, coffee hot, classical rock playing low from the garage speakers. After 27 years of routine, it felt like comfort more than monotony. My name is Gerald. I'm 58 years old, head mechanic at a family-run shop just outside Spokane, Washington. I've been married to Tanya since we were both 31. We raised 2 kids, paid off the house early, and never once missed a car payment. My life wasn't flashy, but it was mine. Ours. That morning, the sun was already climbing, warming the tips of the grass when my phone buzzed on the porch railing. I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked it up. A notification from Tanya's social media. Not unusual. She was in Las Vegas for the annual automotive expo. She loved that stuff more than I did now. New tech, big crowds, open bars. I let her go solo these days. I tapped the post. The photo loaded in seconds. It was Tanya, posing arm in arm with Shane, the young technician she'd mentored last spring. They were close, too close. Her head tilted onto his shoulder, her red lipstick bright against the Vegas lights. He held a drink, looking proud. Her caption, "My real teammate, Wamaju, Vegas vibes, wah area power couple, wah built not bought." I stared at it longer than I should have. My thumb hovered, frozen. The comments were pouring in. "You two are goals! Y'all look good together. Shane and Tanya forever." I didn't feel anger, not immediately. Just something hollow, like a rib cracked inward. I laughed once, quiet and dry, like someone watching their house burn and realizing they left the stove on. She posted it publicly. Not a private message, not a slip-up, no hiding. I took a sip of coffee, still hot, still bitter. Then I walked into the kitchen, opened the drawer by the fridge, and pulled out the tan envelope I'd placed there almost a year ago. No label, no seal, just papers. Divorce documents. Not finalized, not even signed. Just prepared. It wasn't premeditated, not really, but I'd been listening since last fall. The hushed phone calls, the sudden out-of-town trips, the changes in passwords. The envelope wasn't a plan, it was a possibility. A quiet insurance policy in case my instincts ever stopped lying to me. Now I knew. Now I didn't need instincts. I placed the phone down on the counter, beside the envelope. I didn't open it, just looked at it, let it sit there like an old friend showing up right when you needed them. That post, that single moment, it didn't just shift the air, it cracked something open. I didn't text her, didn't call, I didn't need to ask. She had already answered, loud and clear. Instead, I turned off the hose, drank the last of the coffee, and started writing my own reply, not with words, with action, with clarity. The calm before the storm was over, and I was done pretending I didn't hear the thunder. By early afternoon, Tanya's post had racked up over 200 likes. Her friends from the shop, people from the expo, even a few of our mutual friends had chimed in with fire emojis and heart eyes. Nobody seemed to notice her wedding ring missing in the photo. Maybe they did, and just didn't care. I sat on the porch, watching the wind rustle the neighbor's American flag, wondering if this was how quiet revenge began. Not with fury, not with yelling, just with the clarity of a man who'd finally stopped lying to himself. I opened the app, tapped on the photo, typed one comment. "Congrats! Divorce docs are on the counter." Then I closed the app and put my phone face down on the patio table. That was all. The internet did what it always does. Quiet at first, then it rippled. A few people liked my comment. A few more replied with, "Wait, what?" or "This gotta be a joke." But I didn't refresh the page again. I didn't need to see it blow up. I just needed her to see it. That night, she called. Her name lit up my screen at 9:43 p.m. I let it ring twice before answering. I didn't say anything. Just let her speak. "Hey, babe," she said, light and breezy. "Saw your comment. I'm assuming that's your idea of a joke?" I said nothing. Let the silence fill the space where trust used to be. "I mean, come on, Gerald. You know how Shane is. We were just messing around. Everyone knows we joke like that." Still, I said nothing. "You're not seriously mad about a caption, are you? You know social media. I just wanted it to look fun. You know, team-building stuff. People eat that up." I finally spoke, my voice flat. "Check the kitchen." There was a pause. I could almost hear her blinking. What? The counter. Check it. I hung up. The next 30 minutes passed in silence. The kind that presses on your chest. Then, another call. I didn't answer. The voicemail came a minute later. Her voice this time was different. Tight, edging towards something that sounded like panic. Gerald, what the hell is this? Are you actually serious right now? This is insane. You didn't even talk to me before. I mean, you can't just delete. I poured myself a whiskey, sat on the edge of the bed, and thought back to 6 months ago. The night I walked past our den and heard her whispering. I hadn't meant to listen. But her voice had shifted into that soft, sugar-dipped tone she never used on me anymore. You're the one who actually listens to me. That was the night I knew. I didn't confront her. I just listened, collected the pieces quietly. Email passwords, phone bills, travel receipts. I didn't go looking for a smoking gun. I just didn't ignore the smoke anymore. Now it was out in the open, and she was flailing, trying to drag it back into the shadows. But I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't angry. I was finished. And for the first time in a long, long time, I slept through the night. Monday morning, 6:12 a.m. I was already at the kitchen table, sipping my second cup of coffee and reviewing my checklist. I wasn't rushing. There was no urgency, just quiet, deliberate movement. The way a seasoned mechanic works when he already knows what's broken. Tanya was still in Las Vegas, probably hadn't slept, probably still clinging to the hope that the comment was a stunt, something I'd take back if she cried hard enough or found the right lie to wrap around it. I opened my laptop and logged into the throwaway email I'd created months ago. Used a VPN. No trace. Just a single message addressed to the ethics department of her company. A sharp, clean note with attachments. I'd kept it simple. Her social media post with Shane. The caption time-stamped. A screenshot of Shane's recent internal promotion, signed off by Tanya 2 weeks prior. One paragraph explaining the concern. Potential violation of company policy. Inappropriate relationship between a supervisor and subordinate, and potential conflict of interest given the recent promotion. No drama, just facts. Corporate HRS don't need soap operas. They need documentation. I clicked send. By 6:17 a.m., the digital match had been lit. Then I moved on. I logged into our joint bank account and initiated the transfers. My paycheck, now going into a new, separate account she couldn't access. I disabled her name on our shared credit line, updated the online security questions, changed the passwords on our insurance policies, auto payments for her car lease, canceled. I left trails, of course, paper breadcrumbs she wouldn't notice until it was too late, a change of password here, an alert rerouted there. Nothing loud, nothing sudden. Just a slow dismantling of everything we'd once built together, brick by silent brick. By 8 a.m., Tanya sent a text. Tanya, can we talk? I didn't reply. At 9:12 a.m., another one came through. Tanya, seriously, Gerald, you're being childish. We need to talk this out. Don't throw away 27 years over one dumb post. I stared at the screen for a second, then powered the phone off. Her version of talking always meant backtracking, rewriting the facts until I was the one apologizing for being hurt. I wasn't playing that game anymore. By noon, the utilities were transferred to my name alone. I had an appointment at the credit union to discuss refinancing the mortgage under a single signature. I didn't even have to explain why. The clerk looked at the divorce packet I brought with me and just nodded. No questions. That afternoon, I logged into our digital storage. All our important documents were in there. Tax returns, health insurance, her retirement contributions. I pulled copies of everything she'd ever routed through my name, printed what I needed. Deleted nothing, just made sure I had my own copies. At 3 p.m., her name disappeared from our emergency contact forms, from our life insurance, from the deed on the cabin we co-owned in Idaho. She wouldn't notice yet. That was the point. When I got home, the house was still, just the way I liked it. I pulled the envelope from the drawer again, the tan one, and added the latest bank statements and a printed summary of my asset list. I wrote today's date in pen at the bottom. It was the first time I touched the thing in months. That evening, I grilled myself a steak, ate alone, slept early, peacefully. And when Tanya texted again, Babe, why can't we just talk? Her tone all softened edges and artificial warmth, like sugar covering broken glass. I didn't say a word. Let her wonder. Let her pull at strings that no longer led anywhere. She still thought this was about a fight, a misunderstanding, something fixable. She didn't know the foundation had already been lifted from underneath her, quietly, completely. And by the time she figured it out, I'd be too far ahead to catch. By Tuesday, the fire I'd lit behind the scenes started drifting into her world. It was around 10 a.m. when Mike texted me. Just 4 words. Mike. It's already happening. I'd known it would. Mike worked in IT at Tanya's company. We weren't close friends, but we'd fished together once, grabbed drinks twice, and he owed me a favor from when I helped rebuild his transmission for next to nothing. I didn't ask for more than the message. I didn't need details, just confirmation. Still, he called a few minutes later. You didn't hear this from me, he said right away. Course not, I said, sipping coffee in the garage. Shane and Tanya, people are talking. Her post made the rounds fast. Somebody pulled old meeting schedules and saw them booked in the same hotel room. HR is already involved. Someone higher up is pissed. Anything official? I asked. Not yet, but it's coming. They're doing the quiet part first. Pulling files, checking time stamps, looking at Shane's promotion paperwork. She doesn't know. I think she still thinks it's just gossip. I could hear him clicking a mouse in the background. They're not subtle about it either. I saw them printing the policy handbook. You know what that means. Yeah, I said, smiling faintly. They're getting ready to read her the rulebook before they slam it shut. Mike hesitated. You okay? I'm better than I've been in years. We didn't say much after that. We didn't need to. That afternoon, I checked her social media. The post, the one that set everything off, was gone, deleted clean. But it was too late for that. Screenshots lived forever, especially when I'd already forwarded them to 2 personal email accounts and an external hard drive in my toolbox. She texted again that evening. Tanya, you didn't have to humiliate me. I took it down. Can we talk now? I didn't reply. I wasn't in the mood for soft focus apologies wrapped in self-preservation. Instead, I sat down with a legal pad and started writing everything I could remember about the last year. Dates of business trips, overnight shifts she'd claimed, names she'd dropped casually. I cross-checked it with credit card statements and screenshots of travel confirmations. No fire, no fury, just facts. Justice doesn't need noise, it needs proof. By Wednesday, Tanya was still in the dark. She kept texting like we were mid-argument instead of mid-collapse. Tanya, you're blowing this out of proportion. It was just a dumb picture. Tanya, can you stop freezing me out and act like an adult? I didn't respond to any of them. Later that day, Mike sent one more message. Mike, her manager got pulled into HR loud. Doors were closed for over an hour. Shane was called in after. You started a landslide, man. I stared at the message for a long minute, then pocketed my phone. There was no victory lap, no satisfaction, just a steady kind of silence. The kind that comes when a storm moves through and leaves the air clean. She still didn't know it, but the version of her life she was trying to keep upright was already halfway buried. All I had done was hand the truth over. The rest was gravity. Thursday afternoon, I heard her car in the driveway. She wasn't supposed to be home until Friday night, but here she was. A day early, suitcase wheels clacking over the walkway, heels tapping fast. Like she wanted to beat the clock on a fire that was already burning down the house. I was sitting on the porch, elbows on my knees, trimming the edge of a fishing line. I didn't look up until she stepped onto the first stair. She wore sunglasses, not the kind for sun, but for hiding, the big round ones. Her jaw was tight, shoulders stiff, like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times and still didn't know what to say. Hey, she said, her voice too light. I stood. Hey, I thought I'd come back early, figured we could talk. She paused, glancing at the front door. You changed the locks? I changed the life, I said, flat. That threw her. She blinked fast, one hand still gripping the suitcase handle. Gerald, come on, don't do this. We can't just throw away everything over a photo. You didn't throw it away over a photo, I said. You threw it away over 100 choices you thought I wouldn't notice. Her nostrils flared. You're being dramatic. I told you nothing happened. Shane and I aren't my problem anymore, I cut in. You can go around the back. The back? I nodded toward the gate. Guest house is open. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You're putting me in the guest house? You put yourself there. I turned and walked inside, left the door open. Let her follow or not. She did. The screen door creaked behind me, and a few seconds later, I heard her open the side gate. She didn't knock, just let herself in like she always had. But it wasn't the same anymore. She stepped into the guest house expecting chaos. Maybe a note, maybe broken dishes, maybe her clothes thrown everywhere in some kind of dramatic tantrum. Instead, she found order. Boxes, labeled, stacked, neat. Clothes folded, shoes paired, bathroom items in a bin marked personal. Jewelry laid out carefully, her entire life sorted, categorized, undramatic. On the bed sat a manila folder, a spreadsheet printed and paper-clipped, divorce packet beneath it. Her name already filled in, my signature on the bottom line. I stood at the door while she looked around, mouth half open, like the words had left without her. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. "Everything," I said. "Everything accounted for. Nothing to fight over." She sat slowly on the edge of the bed, eyes scanning the sheet. "You listed out the assets?" "Yep." "And split them?" "Fairly." She picked up the folder, her hand trembling. "You boxed my life." "No," I said. "You abandoned it. I just organized what was left." She finally looked up at me. No sunglasses now. Just her face, real and raw, mascara barely holding on. "This is cold," she said. "No," I said, stepping back. "It's precise." I shut the door behind me, not loud, just final. Back in the main house, I sat on the couch. I didn't pace. I didn't cry. I didn't open a bottle. I just listened. After a few minutes, I heard her crying through the wall, not sobbing, not screaming. Just that quiet kind of cry people do when they realize no one's coming to stop it. She'd expected a fight. What she got was math and silence. And a man who didn't yell, didn't beg, didn't explain. She got the version of me she never thought I'd be. Done. Friday morning, Tanya dressed like nothing was wrong. Pencil skirt, silk blouse, heels that clicked with confidence. She even curled her hair the way she always did when she needed to look professional but approachable. I watched from the porch as she pulled out of the driveway, sunglasses back on, makeup hiding the panic. She was heading to the office like she hadn't spent the night boxed into the guest house with her life in compartments. She thought the worst part was over, but Friday was the day her company stopped pretending. From what Mike told me later, Tanya walked into the building like she always did, smiling, nodding to the receptionist, tapping out texts with one hand. Her badge worked at the turnstile, but just past the lobby, two men from HR were waiting by the elevator. They didn't speak right away, just gave her a polite nod and asked her to come with them. She must have known then. They took her to a conference room with frosted glass. Inside were three people, her direct supervisor, an HR lead, and a legal rep from corporate. A folder sat on the table, crisp, thick, unassuming. Tanya sat across from it, shoulders stiff, hands clenched in her lap. She tried to open with charm. Mike said she laughed and asked, "Is this about the Post? That's been taken down. It was just a joke. You know how Vegas is." Nobody laughed with her. Her manager slid the folder across the table. "This isn't just about the Post, Tanya. We need to walk through a few things." Inside the folder were printouts, the social media post, screenshots of comments, photos from the hotel, one of them blurry but damning, showing Shane and Tanya walking into the same room at the MGM Grand after midnight, a copy of Shane's promotion approval signed by her, all dated, time-stamped, neat. Tanya's smile cracked. I didn't violate anything. Shane and I were just close. He's a talented technician. I was mentoring him. The HR rep spoke gently, like someone explaining a diagnosis. "The optics are damaging, especially with your supervisory role and his recent promotion. There are policies clearly outlined in our code of conduct." Tanya's voice must have pitched higher then. "This is a misunderstanding. We were just networking. I've given this company 12 years. Her manager leaned back in his chair. "And now you've put the company at risk. Multiple employees raised concerns. This isn't an isolated incident anymore." She tried to pivot, played the victim. And so what? I get dragged in here because people are jealous? Because I'm a woman in leadership and I took a junior employee under my wing? The legal rep cut in, calm, sharp. You're not under investigation because you're a woman, Tanya. You're under investigation because you crossed lines clearly spelled out in your employee agreement. Lines you helped write when you were promoted to lead. There it was. The end of the conversation. They handed her a suspension notice. Effective immediately. Full investigation pending. Her badge was deactivated before she left the room. By noon, Tanya was locked out of her company email, her calendar, her files. Mike texted me. Mike, she's out. Badge disabled. HR is emailing the team to announce her leave. She looked like she was going to be sick. I didn't reply. Instead, I stood in the garage, wiping grease off my hands, watching a carburetor drip gas onto the tray. No celebration, no gloating. Just the truth catching up. For all the late nights she spent whispering to someone else. For every photo posted like I didn't exist. For the way she underestimated silence. Now, she had a folder of her own. But unlike mine, hers came with consequences she never planned for. She came in fast. I was in the kitchen, scraping the last of my breakfast eggs into the trash when I heard the front door slam open, hard enough to rattle the picture frames. Her heels pounded across the floor like gunfire. "Are you proud of yourself?" she shouted before I even turned around. I kept my back to her, rinsed the plate, set it in the sink. "Gerald," she snapped, "say something." I turned slowly. She was standing there with her purse slipping off one shoulder, her blazer wrinkled, eyes wide with rage and something close to panic. Her makeup was smudged. Her hair, once smooth and composed, was starting to fray at the edges. "Check the envelope," I said calmly, pointing to the kitchen table. "What envelope?" she barked. I didn't answer. I walked past her and headed for the back porch, sliding open the door like she hadn't just come in, shouting fire. I heard her dig around on the table, paper rustling, then a pause. A long one. She'd found it. It was a simple white envelope this time. Inside was a printed copy of the HR letter Mike had forwarded anonymously, one of the final drafts he'd seen before it was locked in for delivery. Addressed to Tanya. Subject, notice of pending investigation, policy violation. I hadn't planned to show it to her yet. But after the way she came at me, screaming like I'd stolen her life instead of simply stepping out of the wreckage, I decided she should see what the trail looked like from the other end. "What the hell is this?" she called out. I didn't answer. Seconds later, the screen door flew open behind me. "You sent this?" Her voice cracked. I looked at her, then down at the garden hose in my hand. "Tanya," I said, my tone even, "you told the world I didn't matter. Now the world is just responding." "You've destroyed everything," she said. "My job, my career, my reputation." "No," I cut in, setting the hose down gently. "You did that. I just let people see it." She stared at me, mouth trembling, tears forming but refusing to fall. Her face shifted. Anger first, then confusion, then helplessness. "This is so cruel," she whispered. "No," I said again, turning to face her fully. "Cruel would have been staying quiet, letting you lie to my face while using me like a safety net. This," I gestured toward the yard, the quiet, the stillness. "This is called done." She tried again. "You can't just erase me from your life like this." "I didn't erase you. I just stopped giving you the pen." That was the end of it. She didn't scream again, didn't cry. Just stood there, swaying slightly, envelope in hand, mascara barely holding the line. I walked back inside, leaving her out there with nothing to say and nowhere to go. She'd expected confrontation. What she got was a mirror and silence. The kind that can't be argued with. The courthouse smelled like stale paper and industrial carpet. That kind of old government building scent, a mix of disinfectant and dust, clung to the air. I sat at the long oak table in a suit I hadn't worn since my nephew's graduation. Clean lines, no tie, calm hands. Across from me, Tanya sat rigid next to her new attorney, some junior guy with slicked hair and a confidence too big for his cheap briefcase. She didn't look at me once, just stared straight ahead, hands folded tight on her lap like she was trying to hold herself together through sheer will. Her hair was pulled back, makeup subtle, respectable, presentable, But under the surface, she looked drained, hollowed out. Her glow was gone. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a stern brow and a stack of files a foot high, opened the hearing without small talk. "Petitioner, Mr. Gerald Whitman," she said, glancing at the paperwork. "And respondent, Mrs. Tanya Whitman." No smiles, no sentiment, just process. Tanya's attorney started first. He went for a motion right out of the gate. "Your Honor," he said, standing with his hands clasped politely, "this is not just a case about marital dissolution. This is a case about misunderstanding, about a lapse in judgment, sure, but not malice. Mrs. Whitman has spent nearly 3 decades in partnership with Mr. Whitman. She deeply regrets how things unfolded, but we believe this court should consider the full context of their marriage." The judge held up one hand. "Is there a rebuttal?" she asked, already looking my way. My lawyer stood, a quiet woman named Denise, whom I'd hired through a friend. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't gesture, she just opened the folder in front of her and laid out a stack of documents like cards at a poker table. "Your Honor, we have here documentation of a suspected inappropriate relationship between Mrs. Whitman and a subordinate at her place of employment, including a social media post, time-stamped photos, and an anonymous complaint submitted to her employer. We also have evidence of Mr. Whitman's recent unilateral financial actions, including separation of accounts, removal from property titles, and asset reorganization, which were all conducted after this incident came to light." The judge flipped through the documents, her face unreadable. "Is the respondent aware of these submissions?" Tanya's lawyer leaned in, whispered something. She nodded, stiff. "Yes, Your Honor," he said quietly. The judge tapped the table with her pen. "Then we'll move forward." It didn't take long after that. The judge reviewed the timeline, the HR documentation, and the asset sheet I'd prepared. Clean, fair, undisputed. She didn't ask for character statements. She didn't want drama. "This court finds the petitioner's claim of marital breakdown to be substantiated by direct cause," she said at last. "Due to the conduct presented and the financial preparedness of the petitioner, the majority of marital assets, including the primary home and retirement accounts, will be awarded accordingly." I didn't flinch. Tanya didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stared down at her lap, blinking hard. Not even anger anymore. Just collapse. She had walked into that courtroom thinking she could spin it, that if she softened the edges and leaned on history, the damage would feel less real. But the courtroom didn't care about feelings. It cared about facts. And the facts had weight. By the time the judge signed the papers, it was all over. The marriage, the house, the future she thought she could salvage with enough charm. She left the courtroom without a word, her heels echoing down the hall. I stayed seated for a minute longer, breathing in that stale, empty air, and just like that, 27 years were filed away, quiet as a whisper. Sunday morning broke quiet and gray, the kind of sky that didn't promise anything. I was in the yard, kneeling by the hydrangeas, pulling weeds, gloves on, old hoodie, no phone in my pocket. I didn't need it to buzz. I already knew it was coming. Inside, my laptop chimed. I left it alone for a few more minutes. Let it sit. When I finally walked in, boots still dusty, I saw the email notification on the screen. Subject line simple, final. "Regarding your return, official notice." I clicked it. It was from Tanya's company's HR department. The tone was cold, flat, professional. No emotion, no ceremony, just the facts in black and white. "This letter confirms the termination of your employment, effective immediately. After thorough investigation into recent conduct violations, including breach of supervisory policy and inappropriate behavior with a subordinate employee, the company has decided to proceed with dismissal. All benefits will cease at month's end. You are not eligible for rehire. No calls, no meetings, no goodbyes. Just a digital guillotine, clean and silent." I stared at it for a moment, then closed the lid. In the distance, I heard the guest house door slam. A second later, Tanya's voice ripped through the morning like a knife. "Are you kidding me?" She burst into the yard, barefoot in sweats, phone in one hand, paper in the other. Her face was blotchy, hair a mess. The side of her mouth twitched like she couldn't decide if she wanted to scream or cry. "They fired me!" she shouted, voice cracking. "They fired me, Gerald! Are you happy now?" I stood slowly, wiped my gloves on my jeans. "They said I violated policy, that I'm a liability. After everything I gave that company, this is what I get." Her voice was shrill now, wild. "I lost my job, I lost my career, my friends won't even return my messages. And you're just standing there like this doesn't mean anything." "It doesn't," I said quietly. That stopped her. For a second. "You ruined my life." "No," I said. "You did that. I just refuse to carry it for you anymore." She opened her mouth to reply, maybe to fight, maybe to beg, but nothing came out. And then she screamed, loud and raw, no words, just a sound that tore out of her like an animal caught in its own trap. She dropped the paper and phone, sank down onto the grass, shaking. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched as the last piece of her world folded in. Behind me, the wind moved through the trees. The hose ticked from the sun, warming the metal. I turned back to the garden, pulled my gloves on, pressed my palm into the dirt, and breathed. No celebration, no revenge, just peace, the kind that comes when silence is finally yours again.